Alright everybody, welcome back to another Xvault Gaming video. Xvault here, and boy do we have overflowing mines of salt. The dam has collapsed. We knew it was going to happen. Only Concord could hold the L for Sony for so long before AstroBot came out and kind of patched everything up and made the Xbox fanboys lose their collective minds. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump to it. Alright, so like I was saying, what we're going to do is get right to it, right to the nitty gritty here. Just for context purposes, AstroBot, if you have been living under a rock a little bit, or maybe you just haven't gotten everything, it has reviewed extremely well. So just some quick context, courtesy of TCMF Games here, showing all the 10 out of 10s. Currently, at the time of this recording, it sits at a 94 Metacritic, making it the second highest rated game of the year for 2024. That is right behind only DLC 2, Elden Ring, of course. And then right behind that sits another PlayStation current console exclusive and not even over on PC yet with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So, just for that context out of the way, let's get right to the salts, shall we? So, starting off, we got Goat Gaming chiming in right away with all the nonsense and misinformation here, buddy. I'm sorry, but breaking review, PlayStation AstroBot feeding old gamers, not core audience. Final review. Graphics are a 7, music 3, storyline 3, gameplay 5, lacks inspiration, buggy, constant frame drops. Obviously not true. This runs at 60 frames per second and up to 4K in a lot of areas. Too expensive, $60. Not too expensive, obviously. 5-hour story, not necessarily true. And of course, Sonic 3D copy. I'm surprised you didn't put a Mario copy, because that's what it's going to be copying, not Sonic. Especially Sonic 3D copy, that's weird. As opposed to, you can say this is more of a Mario Galaxy or Mario Odyssey, if you will, if you're going to kind of compare apples to apples a little bit more there. But already starting in the damage control. But I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, because we got a lot of examples to go over here, by the way. But let's start over here. So Red Dragon did post that it's built different. AstroBot shows the 94 Metacritic score like I'm talking about here, but Corbin chimes in right at the bottom here. It's an average platformer. Why is everyone treating it like it's the best thing since sliced bread? I don't get it. Someone explain, please. Well, Corbin, odds are it sounds like you've been only on the Xbox ecosystem. You're not privy, or you're not used to great games. You're not used to great exclusives. You're not understanding of the quality that PlayStation gives you. So I can see the confusion there, but to break it down for you, it's the closest thing you can get to a prime masterpiece, new entry of a Mario game, if you will. But now this is for the first time on the PlayStation ecosystem, where Playroom, right, AstroBot's Playroom, did a phenomenal job for what it did, packing in and showcasing what it did. This is just expanding upon that a little bit more. So it is a truly special platforming game. If you're a fan of platformers, that's where it lies. So I understand, again, if you are on the confusion side of things in regards to the Xbox ecosystem, I can see why you're having a hard time grasping the concept. It's not simple. You're just writing it off, probably because of your own biased reasons, but good luck to you in all future endeavors there, buddy. Well, let's continue on here. So here's a new guy that cannot stand it. Magnum Force 344. IGN made sure this game didn't take off in the Xbox One era. Sad face emoji, basically. What's he comparing here? Lucky's Tale. Lucky's Tale. And gives it a showing for a 5 out of 10. But what's interesting here is this I played this. So first-hand experience here, folks. I'm not just talking out my ace. But this was not that great of a game. The controls were clunky, all that stuff. As you can see here, a 5 out of 10 from none other than the Xbox shill that works at IGN themselves, Ryan McCaffrey. So if he's not going to shill for it, you know the game wasn't all that polished. Now, I love platformers. I'm a huge platformer fan. And I've stated this multiple times on the channel. And I'm just being honest as well. I wanted this game to succeed. Like, if there's a great platformer, I'm down to play that great platformer. Lucky's Tale was not a great platformer. Even Super Lucky's Tale and all that stuff isn't even all that great and well refined. You can tell it's a lower tier class of a platformer. If you enjoy it, great, but it's nowhere near an 8 or a 7. This is pretty well balanced for once from Ryan McCaffrey here, but I love how the salt's so thick that we could have had our own, and we could have kept Lucky's Tale or Super Lucky's Tale an exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem. Is that the point we're trying to make here? Because that wasn't it. Thank the Lord and thank the other Xbox fans that you are not in charge here, because that wouldn't have went down well at all. That'd be looking at another bleeding edge scenario, even though it's a different genre. You catch my drift here, but let's continue to go on. We can't go on without, of course, good old Anna Anson making a return yet again, stating with the salt, Xbox will always be superior to PlayStation. Sorry, ponies, but you have to live with it. 97 is greater than 94. It's stuck for 20 years. Ha ha. And tagging all sorts of Xbox and PlayStation stuff and showing that the original Halo Combat Evolved does stick at 97. It's interesting. And then, of course, hello, PlayStation fans, AstroBot failed to reach Mario's score. Now what? Just buy an Xbox, which is odd because I've already made the case that you might as well buy a PlayStation if all the first-party games are coming over to PlayStation anyways, right? The Xbox first-party games. And again, you're digging back 20 years in the past. That's what we're doing. So you're also digging up the past. You can bring up Ocarina of Time, which is a higher score than Halo Combat Evolved. So technically, Nintendo holds the crown of best rated game of all time. So what are we comparing apples to apples here for? Just such a stretch. The salt is real. Immediately damage controlling. 20 years ago, you don't need an Xbox Series S or X necessarily to play Halo Combat Evolved. So no, you don't need to just buy an Xbox. And again, I think a little old thing called Master Chief Collection has a very high possibility of coming on the PlayStation side. And then what? Is the narrative going to switch over to, well, it's an Xbox game you're holding up there and you're willing to play and port begging and all this stuff. And I can already imagine the narrative switching and the goalpost moving at that point in time. But let's keep going. We're not done, folks. We got the greatest Oompa Loompa of all time here, Beast of Truth. They're already saying AstroBot is Game of the Year, and my question is based on what grounds? Laughing, crying emoji. So you're telling me as a real gamer that AstroBot is somehow worth celebrating over games like Hellblade 2, Black Myth Wukong, etc. They're really celebrating PlayStation copying Mario. Well, at least he got the comparison right to a Mario game, right? 3D Mario game. The other part that makes me laugh, that I don't want to annoy you guys with me laughing here, but Hellblade 2. Yes, this game is miles better than Hellblade 2, I guarantee you, and a bit longer, and has more flair, ingenuity, you name it. As opposed to you guys shilling and capping for Hellblade 2 by staring at wall textures for 5 hours to inflate your gameplay. But yes, this is going to be a contender at a Metacritic of 94, and how well it has been received to be considered part of the Game of the Year along with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Say what you want, cope, seethe, whatever you need to do. Maybe work at Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. The choice is yours, buddy. Let's keep going on from here, though. He has another one, of course. What was I just saying in that space yesterday? Thinking emoji. I told you all that Sony and PlayStation Media machines that are behind them were desperate for any kind of win after Concord left the scar it did. They had to do something quick to try and repair Sony's image, running away emoji, with capital truth, 100%. Yes, so now we got the tinfoil hat on after this, right? It's clearly media bought by Sony, even though Concord was just dismantled by the media. Why would that be a thing? How do you buy the media, but then the media pans your IP darling that you put a lot of stock into and caused it to basically be pulled along with that narrative that we've been talking about on this channel? But yes, that the media has clearly been bought out by Sony, and this was just a quick pass, and now we're just gonna buy it out. Dude, this guy is so full of crap. Like I said, oh my gosh, the Oompa Loompa knows no bounds. He just, man, he thinks he's like 10 feet tall. I can go on and on and on, but it's just absolutely absurd, the fact that they go to these lengths to where it's the Xbox tax that we've talked about many times on this channel. And now we're talking about, well, we've talked about before, media buyouts and stuff like that, but he's honestly serious, and he tries to dwell this up with all the drones that follow him. Absolutely incredible that they know no links, right? They just don't stop. But again, we're not done here. We're not done here. So good old Kid Smooth here. He has a post, of course. PlayStation beat Xbox masterfully in a year when it had no games, bruh. Shout out to PlayStation having all the Game of the Year nominees this year. When it had no games, Hellblade 2 was just released. What do you mean no games? You guys were waiting years for this game that was going to be a cinematic masterpiece for you guys, and it ended up not being that. So no, they were not left unchallenged. This is what you do as a business when you're on top. You want to stay on top, you know, granted, Nintendo aside, right? Beating the competition, the head-to-heads is PlayStation and Xbox. Nintendo does their own thing. We all know this. We've talked about that. But to sit there and act like Xbox didn't show up at all. Yes, a lot of their games were delayed. Avowed wouldn't have made a difference. A lot of the early previews is not doing anything. Indiana Jones, which is now coming to PlayStation, is not going to make a difference. It's just not. I'd be surprised if this thing gets above a 70 Metacritic, or a 74 max, and that's being very, generous, if you will. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. If it is, great. I don't want the game to be bad. There's a lot of Indiana Jones out there, Indiana Jones fans out there. I'm a fan of that type of genre. Again, I think it's weird that it's a first-person game, but we'll see. Hopefully it's a great game. I'll be checking it out. But my gut feeling, 74 or less. We'll see what happens. If it's more, great. I'm not banking on it and wanting it to do horribly. I hope it does great. A lot of talented voice actors in there, Troy Baker being one of them. And it's just, I hope. I'm pulling for it. But again, we're talking about what's been released so far this year. And again, even if Avowed was going to be released at the time in November that it was supposed to be released as well, we'll see. Not to mention Indiana Jones is rumored to be delayed to next year as well for Xbox, so we'll just have to see there. But then, of course, Curator has to chime in. It's been a minute before Curator's visited this channel, of course. Xbox is an incompetent clown show. Avowed could have taken AstroBot head on and come out victorious. I hate that I'm a fan of Xbox games still. Now, if you've been following along for a while on this channel, when we had Xbox Curator on and featured enough on this channel, he did take the transition over to PC, but still technically an Xbox fan, all this weird stuff, right? A refugee, an Xbox refugee, if you will. And the fact that, again, he brings up what I was mentioning just before, Avowed. I just don't see Avowed making that big of a mark. Maybe it will, but the odds are, the previews, everything that I've seen in the videos, doesn't seem like this game is going to stand out, but we'll see. But again, that salt, and they're just excuse after excuse after excuse. It just doesn't end. Craziness here. But again, folks, we're not done. We're not done. Let's get through this here. I just want a quick pop-up here for Paris. Dear Xbox, I know y'all seeing these AstroBot reviews. Get Banjo-Kazooie into production now. The reason I'm popping this up is because he had a nice post about AstroBot today at the time of recording. And he was praising it. Says a great game, this and that. But then later on has to chime in. Xbox has to do this. They can't manage anything. I feel like they can't manage their way out of a paper bag at this point. And so you trust them to actually do something special with Banjo-Kazooie or something like that? I just don't see it happening. I wish they would. I love the original Banjo-Kazooies and stuff like that. But I don't have a lot of faith in this brand. But of course we have to bring them up. Hey, you guys do something now. Since when have they been on the level of what the quality has been for PlayStation as a whole? You know what I mean? Like, consistently, overall, they're going to have L's on PlayStation side. Again, Concord failed. We talked about it in the Thoughts from the Vault video. It failed. But the fact still remains, when? It's not. So let's not pretend that that's going to happen. Let's continue on. So we have a couple more examples here, of course. Extension here. Again, the Catfish, Andrea Piccinini. Been a minute since they've been featured on the channel. Thankfully, popping back up here. They took a couple week hiatus, by the way, so maybe we're just trying to get back in the groove here with them. But anyways, Nintendo, the absolute best platformers. Xbox, the absolute best shooters. Nintendo and Xbox are the only console brands to achieve 97 score. Again, Ocarina of Time, you seem to left out here. Odyssey was a fantastic and amazing game here, but I love how you're trying to bolster these two up like PlayStation doesn't have this incredible pedigree. And the reviews, just as we all know, just like I know, AstroBot could have came out in 99. Great, that's fantastic, has a high praise. But these critic scores, Metacritic scores, and just overall review scores doesn't mean the game is at that level for everybody, by the way. These are just opinion pieces, and the list goes on. So the fact you're bringing these up just to kind of damage control, and again, we're diving back to 20 years ago, still trying to bolster up a game that will probably land on PlayStation sooner than later in the Master Chief Collection, but yes, congratulations from that win from 20 years ago. We're living in the here and now. I don't know about the rest of you, but I like to live in the here and now. It's great to respect the past, revisit the past, but I want to see what's here and now, what's new, what's fresh. That's why I have new gen systems, not to play retro. I'm not a retro-only gamer. I like to play a lot of new stuff. I know a lot of you on this channel probably do, and I'm sure we all visit the past games as well. I do that from time to time, but my main focus is the new games. Not that hard to follow, dude. And then, of course, let's do one more final one from Extension here, right? Wait, what? 100% in just 6 hours. Imagine waiting a year and paying $70 for this, a bunch of crying emojis. So the crazy part here, like Buddy Rose states here, so I'll read it for him. You know the video is edited, right? This is true, in case you don't know. Cut down to make it look like 6 hours. Also, the person was speedrunning the game and knew where everything was already. That is also true. This is not going to be your first playthrough whatsoever. To 100% it, it's anywhere from 22 to 25 hours I'm hearing from a lot of content creators and review outlets, just an FYI. Meanwhile, Snoozeblade is an actual 6-hour walking tech demo that not even 20% of the people who played it finished it. Beautiful. That's absolutely 100% is true as well. And you can view that. If you're asking how do we know that, you can go onto the Xbox achievement list and see the percentage of people that actually beat the game. And it does seem and feel from a lot of content creators and players that it did feel more like a tech demo. So I think this is right on the nose from Buddy Rose. I'm a poet, didn't know it, all that stuff. But I just love it. They just can't get enough. They can't. I mean, they have nothing. They've only had Hellblade this year, like I said. And as I mentioned previously, we don't know if Indiana Jones is for sure coming out this year. For a fact, rumor has it, again, rumor, grain of salt, that it has been delayed into next year. So if that is true, all they had this year was Hellblade, a 6-hour game that, yes, was a walking cinematic game. You think God of War or God of War Ragnarok was a walking cinematic adventure? Take another look. Nobody's talking about Hellblade 2 in regards to playing it. I'm not seeing gameplay posted. I'm not seeing anything else going on. And hats off to devs. It was an amazing looking game, and it was a game on its own in what it tenured. I don't want to downplay that or assume negative intent on that stuff. But when we're doing, again, apples to apples here, it's night and day. This is crazy. The salt is overflowing. Like I said, this is just a small example. This is one of those instances when PlayStation hits another game out of the park with another home run yet again. We're going to see examples of this time and time again, especially for the next few weeks. They're not going to stop. And, you know, what do you go from there? Where do you go from there, right? Where we go from there essentially is more mounds of salt. It's great to dissect it and look at it all. But that being said, this is pure bliss in regards to the salt factory here in the salt mine. So appreciate that, everybody. We'll wrap up the video right now. Your support, as always, is phenomenal. Thank you so much for that. Every like and comment does help out the algorithm, and I love to hear from you both. So thank you so much for that. And when I say both, I mean from the likes and comments. And then, of course, if you haven't already, definitely consider subscribing, helping out a small content creator like myself. That helps me out so much. We are well on our way to the 2,500 sub goal. We're just continuing to grow. So thank you all so much. I appreciate that. And I appreciate that you appreciate the truths that are told on this channel as well. So thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. And just remember, don't be a salty batch. And we'll see you all next time on the next Xvault Gaming video. And until then, take care.